public comment. So if anyone would like to speak on this item, please come forward. If there are a lot of people, if you could kind of form a line, and then if everyone could, make sure they adjust the mic so they're speaking right into it, and then please sign in after you're done speaking.
Hi, I'm Donna Briskin at 1500 Park, and earlier this week I sent you all an email from our ad hoc committee about our concerns and support of this project. It was also signed by our full board of directors and 16 other residents in our building. Our building's had a tradition of not being involved in the community, and what we're seeing is that the interest in this project and other things going on in the community is just escalating. So we're very pleased with the involvement. I also want to say we want this project to go forward, done right. We think it'll enhance the neighborhood by adding energy and life. Our district's ambience is precious, and we need to work together to protect this unique historic and artistic nature of the Park Avenue. We also want to thank all of you, the city staff, the developers, and the Planning Commission for going ahead with 2 plans. Clearly, A is the better, in our opinion, and we understand the complexity of the land swap, and I don't know, to me it's pretty extraordinary that we're going to pursue both, and I hope that we'll get resolved quickly, and we're encouraging the city, as is everybody, to resolve that. Option A, the reason it's so much better for us, the 2 primary ones are obviously that doesn't put a building right outside our building. But also I think it makes the park a better public park space than that sort of dead area back by the railroad tracks. Option B also, as Commissioner Keller pointed out, does not have the access to a garage from Halleck. And again, we think that this being such a landlocked parcel, it's really important to spread this traffic as much as we can. There's obviously a built-in conflict, compression between the car demand and the bike boulevard, and so we're also looking forward to a complete traffic study as part of this project. On that conflict with the bike boulevard, or the increased demand, we'd like to encourage that the bike pathing through the development be really good, so that we're not only trying to keep cars off Horton, but we're trying to move some of the bike traffic, even if it's just the recreational bikers, onto the property. We're glad that there's going to be significant parking, and that the access to that parking is coming out of 46th and then dispersing, hopefully mostly north onto Horton. And we are disappointed, quite frankly. We know it's within their rights, but we would have liked to have seen the frontage on Sherwin and Horton be even lower, so that it didn't exceed the height of the existing parcel A on their part, or that front of our building, which is 42 feet, I think, on our side. So we understand it's within the guidelines, but we would have liked to have seen that lower. Anyway, thank you very much for reading our submission and for considering our input.
Thank you.
Let me just change this so at least you're looking.
Yep. Boris, can you put the keyboard down so that people won't accidentally hit it? Okay.
Oh.
Keyboard, just put it off to the side so people don't hit it by mistake. And the mouse.
It's a mouse. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
My name is John Wolf. I'm a resident of 1500 Park Avenue and on the committee that is watching the unfolding of the Sherwin-Williams project. We appreciate that the developer has spent time listening to the neighborhood. We much prefer option A. It would dampen traffic flow. It has 50 more parking spaces than option B, and for open spaces it is much more pleasing. However, the land ownership issues may prevent the implementation of option A. This leaves option B, some good points and bad. First, density and traffic. 540 units is quite a lot for a parcel locked on 2 sides. Traffic flow is in direct proportion to site density. It is worrisome. There's only 2 main exits for the development, Hubbard and Horton. The Planning Commission has already heard complaints about using the small street of Hubbard as the grand entrance to what the developer refers to as the Hubbard Circle. In option B, all new buildings, most new buildings, funnel their traffic primarily onto this circle and exit Hubbard. This is too many cars for Hubbard. Horton, the other main exit for the site, is the city's premier bike boulevard. But Horton, the vehicle thoroughfare rivaling Hollis, is already accommodating a daily car count of 3,000. And Horton has already provoked a neighborhood squabble over traffic and bike incompatibility over diverting and blocking traffic. This is all before the development and its cars are added to the mix. It is a perplexing problem. And at this point, the developer and the city point to the traffic study as the next step for finding solutions. I hope for some innovative ideas. A good point, the bike path. The developer has stated he will create a bike path through the full north-south length of the development. We are in favor of this idea. This would give bicyclists on Horton a choice. I realize commute bicyclists prefer roads, but the pleasure bicyclists might opt for a safer and more scenic route. And lastly, the height issue. A cluster of 75-foot buildings, even with step-downs, is too much for this neighborhood. Currently, Sherwin Street and Horton are anchored by buildings that are 42 feet tall. This is the edge of the Park Avenue district. The existing Sherwin-Williams building, Parcel A, is a good example of an old industrial building that has a good feel to it. It is 42 feet tall. It should be the cornerstone of this project, not surrounded and overshadowed by new buildings that rise to near twice its height. Raise buildings C2 and D to higher heights if need be, but keep the new buildings at the southern edge of the site compatible with the existing neighborhood. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Kim Steinbacher, resident and board member at 1500 Park. And I'd like to thank Donna and John for eloquently stating a lot of the issues that we've discussed at 1500 Park. And I think our letter that we turned in earlier captured a lot of what we have been interested in and what we're looking for in the project. I'm actually here tonight to read a statement on behalf of one of our small business owners who was unable to attend this evening. So this is from Krishna Hanks, and she owns East Bay Pilates at 1500 Park, and she's a current member of the Economic Development Committee and Committee on Aging. She says, as a small business owner since 2005 in Emeryville, I continue to advocate for projects that help maintain, grow, and encourage small business development in Emeryville. We have a vibrant, artistic, and eclectic community where locally owned and operated businesses can thrive if given the chance. We have for years had an empty lot that is a blight on our district. Our business sees the Sherwin-Williams project, and particularly Option A, as a chance for positive change similar to the achievements on Park Avenue. If as a city we truly support small business, this is a chance to back that up with action. And I will say that I also agree with her statement on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sharon Wilshire, and I live at 1420 45th Street, which is one of the buildings of the 45th Street Artists Cooperative. And I think that maybe we're all putting a lot into the possibilities of the traffic study, myself included, just in terms of how some of the issues that are in this area now, especially with Horton being a bike boulevard, things that in terms of looking just a little bit beyond this postage stamp, looking a little beyond to see how traffic could flow through this area. There are actually 5 residential properties that are right on the immediate interface, either on Horton or Sherwin, to this property. Some of them with driveways that dump right out onto the street there. So one of our buildings, for example, the new 46th Street is almost right across from our driveway, and it's already an issue just getting out onto the street. So, and I did think about something, and I love all the ideas about a trolley, but I was just thinking maybe on the railroad spur, a trolley would help to solve some of our problems to have. I think that it seems that most of the pedestrian flow is really north-south, not so much east and west. I don't really know how much, at least off of Horton, how much that's really been improved. So those are just a few comments, and we thank the developers for the time that they've spent with community meetings, and we look forward to more of them. Thank you. Thank you.
My name is John Bowders. I'm a resident of the Park Avenue District as well, over here in the Bessler Lofts building. I would like to begin by thanking the developers for listening to the community in respect to the traffic study we're going to have in the green space. I provided some comments in advance just to summarize what I wanted to discuss briefly tonight, which is an item that's been on your minds and on the minds of the City Council when it reviewed this previously, but was not mentioned this evening. That's the affordability of the housing that will go into this proposal. I am the Director of Policy at Housing California, and we are the state's leading nonprofit in advocacy for affordable housing development. The opportunity to make sure that this project includes affordable housing is now. The developers should be encouraged to access and contact affordable housing developers. There are at least a dozen in the East Bay who would partner with them to make sure that some portion of this project includes affordable housing for low-income and fixed-income renters. If we give up the entitlements that the developers are seeking now, we legally lose the ability under existing law to require that later. In lieu fees, which most developers have pursued here in Emeryville, are ineffective to developing affordable housing. In lieu fees require us to put that money aside. It takes years for us to build up a sufficient fund to do an affordable housing development, and we lose keeping up with what our current need is. I provided attached to my comments, ABAG came out with its RENA for 2014 to 2022. And this is an opportunity for us to put a dent in what our regional housing needs allocation is going to be. Again, I wanted to just point out a couple things. There's a lot of money that came online, projects I personally worked on this year related to affordable housing. Prop 41 passed in June. That's $600 million of general bond money that can be used to house formerly homeless veterans. That's money affordable housing developers will have access to if they're in partnership with a private developer. $100 million in general funds was dedicated to the MHP and the MSHP programs. Again, that's for affordable housing development for families. And finally, we're currently in the process of putting regulations together on the implementation of cap and trade dollars. And one of the biggest things that's being overlooked here is that there's going to be a ton of money available annually to do transit-oriented development for projects that are within a certain radius of a transit hub. And the transit center and the Amtrak station are both situses that would make this project available for that money. And so I would encourage you to ask the developer to partner with an affordable housing developer to make sure that a portion of these units gets developed at an affordable level for families and seniors. Beyond that, I'll save my comments on traffic. I don't probably have any time left, 10 seconds. I'll save my comments on traffic for another hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tito Young, and I live at 5855 Horton Street, just down the block from here. And I want to thank everybody for a very exciting project. I think it's kind of wonderful. Option A to me is, in fact, the most wonderful because it does have an opening for the space, and I'm really all about spaces and how they work. And I just see that option B just kind of feels like it, kind of a park back there that, you know, kind of gets lost and kind of blocks everybody off. But I also want to make a comment about the fact of the architectural feel of the buildings themselves, where there was a discussion regarding the balconies versus non-balconies and making sure that there's a series of patterns. And I want to be a real stickler about that because it's the patterns and the shapes that actually can do things to the FAR as much as possible. They do make balconies, and sizing does change volume. So in some cases, it might make a building appear, you know, physically smaller. At the same time, I think it'd be really good that as they're designing the buildings, focal points are really established from various places, and one of them would be that park in the center, and the other one would be in the over by what would be to the south side of the property. Also, there's one place that I think would be more interesting to think about is the cutoff area where right at the middle of the lot it kind of comes up and then drops over. Not really much you can do with it. Where the north side of the site happens, well, right there is a parking lot, and it's just a great parking lot. So if it's possible, talk to the owners of that lot about something that could in fact be part of this project rather than just be an alien line that happens between one side and the other. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Phyllis Larimore. I live at 1500 Park. And two things I wanted to ask about. The first is that someone recently told me that there were meetings with Sherwin-Williams maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and at those meetings, it was stated by people from Sherwin-Williams that there would not be condos in this, the upcoming development that they were planning and or envisioning. And the reason for that was that the toxic land underneath, selling properties in the development would represent too much of a liability for Sherwin-Williams. So they were ruling out at that point any condo development. And one of my biggest concerns about this entire development is that it's all rental, but no one has said this piece that I just heard about the other day. So it was suggested by the development team at some point that they were going to map the project for condos, but that it was going to be all rental unless, the market changed. So I haven't heard any discussion of that in this session, so I wonder what the truth is. Is there this sort of ruling out by the owner of the property, Sherwin-Williams, of selling, and that's the reason that there are no condos in this entire development versus rental property? And if not, is there still any potential that some of this could be sold, some of these units could be sold as opposed to being entirely rental? So that's my first concern. And my second concern is of course, the traffic. I do not like the idea of having anything more on Halleck Street or Hubbard Street, but somehow, even though I live on Hubbard Street, it's virtually going to be impossible to have much more happening on Hubbard Street because it's so busy all day. In the evening it's not, but so that's, but Halleck, I'd like to preserve that bit of peace that we have around our building. So please don't put anything on Halleck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott Donahue, 1420 45th Street at the Artist Co-op. I'm also on the BPAC, and we looked at this as an improvement from the first iteration, and we, of course, liked A as a preference. We think that having that centralized park is really good. One of the things we really talked about was having sufficient protected bicycle parking at ground level so that a site that's going to be as dense with traffic as this would offer the option of walking and cycling for the residents to get out of the site during rush hour. It's going to be so dense, but if you need to go get some supplies, get your dinner, we've just somehow got to make another option. And that option realistically is walking or bicycling. So bicycle storage is important to have enough and have it be truly accessible and protected and really work, because that's the kind of lifestyle that is going to be found to be effective in a site like this, and perhaps have an element of beauty to it, a new urban life where people get out of their cars and really do have a public life on the street with their neighbors. And I like that they are really talking about having much more of the project at ground level that offers interaction with neighbors and with users of the site to experience it as a neighborhood and as a public park. And this site really does emphasize the need for the bridge across the railroad tracks. I think that's going to be hard for us to not have it and have this site really work. And I think that's something we have to pay attention to as a city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Craig Hong. I'm at 1500 Park Avenue. I think option A is the way to go. It's the open spaces, they all are interconnected. And I can see standing in Hubbard Circle, the sight lines would be far more pleasing. Also, it is self-serving that I am at 1500, but also I think the residents of the new development would also prefer and be attracted more to Plan A because of the open sites. And also, the way the two parcels at the top are configured, it's like the World Trade Centers. It also like negates the draft that comes from two buildings abutting each other, juxtaposed that way. And also, it's just a dispersal of the developed units that create a more open and a more eccentric and less regimented configuration, like the box 4 grid configuration, like Plan B. It's that is by far the inferior design. So I hope everyone understands that option A is really preferable if anyone would had the choice. And I hope they can swap out the zoning constraint for the northern proposed option B park, which is isolated. And would also like obstruct people who have like various activities in the open spaces. It would isolate them from their kids or their friends, depending on what kind of activities they're engaged in. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? All right, well, thank you everyone for your comments.